Hey, today we're going to look at installing Windows 7 on VMware Workstation. There's about 4 necessary steps you need to take before we can begin. Make sure that you have enough space for the virtual machine that you're going to install. We're going to be installing Windows 7, and I'm going to install it on my desktop just over there. So I'm going to need about 20 gigs. I'm going to allocate 20 gigs. That's more than enough for the Windows 7 barebone installation. And second stage is you want to have a copy of VMware installed. It should be licensed, I think, to do certain stuff, to put more memory or maybe to do more technical side stuff. The third stage is to have a image or a physical copy of Windows 7 operating system. I have one over here. It's in an ISO format, so that's my Windows 7 image. And fourth, you want to keep your files organized. So make a folder on the desktop or wherever you want to install your virtual machine, because VMware tends to generate quite a bit of temporary files that it needs to have access to, and it needs to have open for the virtual machine to run. And you can see those here when they're being generated. That's why you want to keep your files organized with the virtual machines, and it makes it easier when you're going to delete the virtual machine as well. So you can just go right click on that folder, delete, and it'll be done. Okay, now for the people who downloaded a Windows 7 image just to test it out, you can have it for 30-day trial period. Some of the images might just say Windows 7 Professional, like mine, with Service Pack 132-bit. Some of them might say Windows 7 Home Premium, Windows 7 Ultimate. Some of them might just say one type of Windows 7 on it. This is not entirely true, because Windows 7, Microsoft, when they released the copies, the OSs of Windows 7, each disk had all the copies of Windows 7. So each disk has all the copies, which I think, just off the top of my head, Windows 7 Home Premium, Windows 7 Home Basic, Windows 7 Starter, Windows 7 Professional, Windows 7 Ultimate, and Windows 7 Enterprise. So there's a method that you can follow, which I'll show here, that will prompt you for the installation of any of those options. It'll give you a selection, and you can go ahead from there. So what you want to do is open this ISO image with something like Power ISO, some sort of image editing software. I'm going to open it with Power ISO, browse to desktop, Windows 7 Professional. Now in the sources folder, you're going to look for a file called ei.cfg. So over there, I just press the E button on my keyboard. You can scroll down to ei.cfg. Now if you notice this file, this is a config file which forces the installation to I opened it the wrong way. You have to open it from WinRAR to be able to view it. It forces the installation to follow whatever is under Edition ID. So right now it's on Professional. So when you insert your media, the ISO image, into a VMware Workstation, when the installation toolbox, when it appears, it'll automatically go ahead and install Professional. It won't give us the opportunity to select Ultimate. It won't give us the opportunity to select Home Basic, Home Premium, or Starter if we wanted to try the other ones. So in my case, I'm going to try Windows 7 Home Premium when I get the option. So I'm going to close this, and what I want to do is delete this file in Power ISO. I'm going to just press the delete button over here, and when you delete this file and just save it, alright, yes, when you delete this file, it'll give you an option in the process of installation. At some stage it'll give you an option to select which type of operating system you want, and that is what we want, because I want to install Windows 7 Home Premium. I don't know, whichever one. I'll make my mind up on the spot when I see the options, but I'll probably just pick Professional. That seems to be the easiest one, because I might actually use this virtual machine later. So we'll do that. I'm going to pause the video here. Oh, actually no, I'll explain some other stuff in the process. When you're installing VMware, I'll actually go ahead and show you. So you'd go typical. So once this saves, so say for example this is saved right now, we're gonna go create new virtual machine, typical recommended settings. You want to pick the I will install the operating system later. The reason for this is if you install the disk image now, or you put your, I don't know about the CD, but that depends on the CD I guess. If you insert any disk image now and go next maybe twice, it'll ask you to enter the Windows 7 product key. And if you don't enter one, it won't let you go any further. And say for example, why you would not want to do this is if you wanted to try out the 30-day trial period, and it only seems to work this way for some reason. I'm gonna click this and go next, and over here Microsoft Windows, Windows 7, it's not a 64-bit, it's a 32-bit, click next. Virtual machine name, I'm gonna name it the same naming convention as my desktop, test VM Win 7, and the location is gonna be this folder here on my desktop. So I'm gonna browse test VM Win 7 on my desktop. Okay, click next. I'm gonna allocate 20 gigs, and I will always store virtual disk as a single file, because when you store it as a single file, it'll enable you to use snapshots in virtual VMware Workstation. Sorry, and what snapshots are is pretty much what the word says. They're snapshots, so they take a snapshot of your virtual machine at that current stage, and you can revert back to it whenever you want, even if it's in the on stage. So it's not like a system reboot, not like system restore, where if you reverted back to a restore point, your computer would have to restart and then do its processes, and then it'll kind of bring you back to the state. The snapshot is literally you pick a snapshot, and even if your virtual machine is on, it'll take you back to that exact same stage. So it's very quick, very handy, and it'll 100% work as far as I'm concerned. Whereas Windows restore, system restore, sometimes it doesn't actually end up fixing itself, and sometimes it doesn't even work. So snapshots are actually quite a good thing in this. And the reason why you would split the virtual disk into multiple files is pretty much for the reason below. It makes it easier to move these files. So I want to store it as a single file. Customize hardware, I'm going to give it 2 cores per processor, and I want to give it 2 gigs of RAM, 2048. Leave the network adapter type as NAT, so it uses your host's IP address to perform a NAT translation and give it a guest IP address. And you got to understand the difference now since the host and guest thing came up. A host is a machine that you're running VMware on. A guest is the virtual machine itself. So in our case, my host is Blaze-213. This is my computer here. This is what I'm running VMware on. When I run this, it's going to be called test VM Win 7. That will be my guest. And we're just going to go OK. Finish. And now it'll create an environment. And notice how the files already got created. And this will be about 2 megs. It should roughly be about 2 megs. Yeah, 2.56 megs. I'm just going to put this here, 2.56 megs, and I'll leave this box over here, and we'll open it up every now and then just to see how much space is increased by, the allocated space is increased by, because you can actually blatantly see how much space has been increased or decreased every now and then. Because how I was saying, to keep the files organized, because it does tend to generate quite a few files. So hopefully the power ISO is saved. No, it's still got 45 seconds. So what we want to do now is, once this environment is generated, you can put a description here of your virtual machine. We want to go edit virtual machine, and over in the CD IDE drive, make sure connected power on is checked. Use the ISO image, and you want to use the one which is on your desktop, which is that one there. And I'm just going to wait so this finishes, and then I will select that in the window in the back. Oh nice, it's finished. So that's the image there, and I'm just going to select that one. Okay, and now we're ready to power on this virtual machine, and notice the size. Okay, I'm just going to cancel and open it again. It's going to be at 2.56 megs. Power on this virtual machine, and notice the files generated as well. The files generated keep increasing in size because yeah, the VMware Workstation needs some temporary files for it to run properly, and it's completely normal. Have to excuse my dog in the background. It seems to have found something interesting to bark at. If you can still hear it. So let's open the folder again. Notice how it's at 2 gigabytes now. So I'll guide you through the installation here as well. It's not very hard. Now this is performing a bare bone installation on a clean machine with no files on the new machine's hard drive. This is the options that you would most typically pick. So you'd pick your country, wherever you're from, and how you want the layout and the time setting to be, and I'm just going to go install now because I know exactly what hardware I use, and you would only go pick the other two options just to see if your computer can even run Windows 7 and whatnot. And notice how it's a bit choppy, and then over here it's very fluid, the mouse movement. This is completely normal because in this VM right now it's treated as a bare bone installation, so you would not have any video drivers to make this a very smooth experience. So that is why it's choppy. Right now it's using just basic standard graphics. And there we go, there's our prompt screen to pick which version of Windows we want to install. I'm just gonna go Windows 7. Actually, we'll just pick starter just for quicker installation. You can choose whichever one you want to install. You'll go next. I agree with the license terms. I'm gonna have to go custom because there's nothing to upgrade since it's a bare bone installation. Custom. Click on the disk. Free space. The entire drive is free. And notice how it's only allocated 20 gigabytes because that's what we made it. Go next, and you can load advanced driver options and stuff if you want to partition that volume, or the physical drive, sorry. And I might pause it here when it gets to, I think it's expanding Windows files. That's generally the one that takes time. Yeah, this seems to take a long time, so I'm just going to pause it here, then I'll come back when it's closer to finishing. Hey, it finished the installation. Now it's just restarting. And we'll have another look at the folder size at the moment. Now it's at 2 GB at the second check. Third check, 5.51 gigs. So it's just starting up after the first installation process. We still have a little bit more installing to do. It's just finished copying the files, I think. Yeah. So once it does all this, it'll get us straight to the desktop. It's a very simple installation, very straightforward. Everything after Windows, even Windows XP, is actually pretty simple to install. Windows 2000 as well. There's one pixel. Something wrong with that pixel. Let's check the folder size now. Third check was 5.51. Still the same. I would pause it here, but this stage generally gets done quite fast. Actually, I might pause it here and then resume when I see any signs of progress. It just popped up with setup will continue after your system is restarted, and now it is restarting. And I think there's a bit more of the setup to finish after it restarts. This is completely normal, by the way. Even if you are installing it on a physical machine, the Windows 7 installation does tend to restart 1 or 2 times during the installation. Especially if you have checked the install updates during installation option. There we go, type a username. Use the same naming convention here, test VM 17. Next, I don't want a password. Product key, don't automatically activate, go next. See how we can bypass this now. If you put the installation image at the start, you wouldn't have been. I'm just gonna go ask me later. I don't want anything to do with installing any updates at this stage because I just want the installation to be done. Just gonna go home network because it is my home network. So once this installation is done, and if the desktop is the next stage, what we normally do after that particular stage is you would install the device drivers for your particular machine. If this was a physical machine, I would be installing the sound drivers, the video drivers, the motherboard drivers, the CPU drivers, whatever other drivers you have, if you have RAID drivers, SCSI drivers. So if you do have any other drivers that you need to install, this next stage, once the desktop has appeared, would be your stage to install all those. But the main primary are just motherboard, CPU, sound, and video drivers. But if it's a virtual machine, you still have to do those because it will still not work seamlessly. And what VMware Workstation does is it has a set of tools called the VMware tools. If you install that, it'll be the equivalent to installing drivers, and then it'll work seamlessly, and you can interconnect your virtual machine guest to your host as well and share files between them. So my desktop is up. Notice how the mouse is still a bit choppy, whereas outside it's completely seamless. Inside is a bit choppy. So what we want to do now, this is Windows 7 Starter Edition. Yep, Windows 7 Starter. So what you want to do now is you want to go VM, install VMware Tools, and it'll mount an image drive, and it should just pop up like installation media. If it doesn't pop up like installation media, you can just open up File Explorer and go My Computer, and VMware Tools should be there. If you double click on it, you can just go Run Setup. I'm going to pick No for this option because this came up after anyway. And I'll guide you through this as well. So installing VMware Tools is exactly the equivalent to installing the physical device drivers on a physical machine. I never noticed that Windows logo in a normal Windows 7 Home Premium and Professional above, I think. So anything above Home Premium, I don't remember that Windows logo being there. I just remember the blue background. WordPad. Connect to a project. I don't even remember all this in Windows 7. And I used Windows 7 for quite a while. Windows PowerShell. I'm just going to pause the video here, guys, and I'll come back to when it's nearly done. It just said removing backup files. So there you go, installation is finished. So it'll ask you to restart, which is completely normal. Go ahead and do so the drivers can be applied. So 5.51 gigs, right? So let's go check out the folder size now. So it's 7.16. Nice. We'll just check the folder size one more time. 7.16. Cool. So now if we go view, and you go fit guest now, it should automatically fit the guest to that maximum window size. There we go. So notice the mouse is seamless now. Windows arrow should work. It's just Windows starters doesn't actually have the arrow feature, it seems so. And the installation ISO is still there, as you can see. You can't personalize your background either if it's Windows 7 starter. Cool, so thanks for watching, guys. So that's how you install VMware Workstation, Windows 7 on VMware Workstation. And to turn it off, you follow the same method as turning off a normal computer. Go start, shut down. And notice the folder size again over here. It's 7.16 gigabytes, right? When you shut it down, it should actually drop down. And notice how the files disappeared as well, the temporary files. So 7.16, 5.19, which is completely normal. Nothing gets deleted. Everything is there. It's just when the virtual machine is in use, I think it extracts some of the files to use and then it compresses them back, which is completely good because it saves us disk space. And if you want to delete it, just close it off here in the tabs, and I think it automatically gets deleted from there if you were to delete it from your desktop, because that's the favorite tabs over there. It'll have been there. All you want to do is right click this folder. That is, just make sure that is the test VM Win 7 for Windows 7. Right click delete, and that's how you get rid of your virtual machine. So thanks for watching, guys. Rate, comment, subscribe. If you have any questions, ask below, and look out for my other videos. Thanks for watching.